This week we're going to look at data visualization, and we already saw last time how to use the plot method that's built into Pandas data frames to use matplotlib to do some simple plotting. So this time we're going to focus more on Seaborn, but we'll learn a couple of additional features of the plot method as well. So let's start at the top here. We have the same data as before. We're importing the Seaborn package as well as matplotlib, and we're opening a data connection to the names database and then reading a query. So what we have is a data set in long format, because in this gender column we have both female and male samples. And then what we did before was we set the index to be year and then undid that by resetting the index. And we ended up with long form again. But here we pivoted the data so that both year and name were the index. And then we split the long format gender column into two wide format female column and male column, where the values were the name counts for females and males respectively. So after we did the pivot, we did a plot, which wasn't quite right, because if you look at the plot, you'll see the index is both the year and the name. And really, we just want the year to be the index before we do the plot. So to fix that, let me go ahead and say pivoted reset index, and then set index year, and then plot that instead. So here we just see the year in the index, and so that's all we get on the x-coordinate. Now, the plot method uses wide format, and each numeric column that you have is going to get a separate trend in the line chart. But Seaborn works fine with long format data, so you don't have to pivot it if you want to use Seaborn. So I'm going to go ahead and add a cell here, and we'll start by displaying our data frame. And it's long format, and so the Seaborn command to plot this is going to be SNS, because I'm importing Seaborn as SNS. And then this is a relational plot that plots two or more numeric values against each other. And I can specify the data frame is df, and then the x-coordinate is going to be year, and the y-coordinate is going to be name count. So let's just go ahead and plot that. And actually I have a positional argument follows keyword argument because I forgot to do y equals. Okay, so by default I get the scatter plot. If I want a line plot, what I do is I set kind equal line. And here's my line plot. Now, what I'm doing is I'm plotting two separate trends, though. There's a male trend and a female trend. And when you have multiple values, what it does is it calculates a confidence interval. So this like blue envelope around here is showing me by default the 95% confidence interval for these two samples. Which is not really what I want. What I really want is two separate trends. One for male values of gender and one for female values of gender. And the way you do that in Seaborn is you specify basically the same column you would use to pivot the data. So you say hue equals gender. And then what I get is the same as before. So now there's two separate trends, one for female values of gender and one for male values of gender. And one gets blue and one gets orange. And if I had three genders, it'd be three trends and so on. So really simple to work with long form data. You just specify the column that's making it long form that you would have pivoted to turn it into wide form, and specify that as the hue, and you get two separate trends. Now, alternatively, this is specifying it as hue and getting two trends in the same graph. You can also do two separate graphs. So if I say call is gender, what this does is it actually gives me two separate columns, one column for gender equal F and another column for gender equal M. Okay, and then I'm just going to execute the rest of these again to make sure that it's all current. So we have some stacks and some melts and such like moving back and forth from long form to wide form. But we're just going to use Seaborn, so we don't need to worry about that. So I am reading the number of babies that were registered each year again. And calculating names as percentages. Okay, so we have Billy and Billy. So here's a matplotlib plot, which uses pivoted data. Let's go ahead and do the same thing using Seaborn. So here, sns.relplot, kind is line, and we're going to use the data frame is names, x coordinate is year, y coordinate is going to be our percent. And then why don't we do two columns and two hues. So we're going to do gender is the hue, but then we'll do columns is equal to name. All right. And actually, yeah. So this one is name is Billy, and this one is name is Billy with an IE. And then for Billy with a Y, most of them are male, and for Billy with an IE, the majority of them are female. Or if we wanted to do it the other way around, let's go ahead and comment out this trend. And let's set the hue to name and the column to gender. And cannot handle a non-unique multi-index. So let's display SNS. Let's display names. Yeah, so this is a multi-index because it's got year and gender in the index. So let's just reset index first. Let's do names is reset index. Okay. So here we have the trend of female names, and it's showing Billy with an IE is more popular than Billy with a Y. And here it's showing male names, and Billy with a Y is more popular than Billy with an IE.